Aloha mai kakao, everyone. We have a guest moderator, and tonight we are super blessed and happy to have our cousin, LaToya Simmons, to be our moderator and host. So we will turn that over to her now to start this panel. Let's
Yes.
see.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hey, cousin.
Yes, we'll bring our guest up now too.
Yeah, bring the
Yes.
panelists up. I'm so excited about tonight. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about tonight is something that I noticed in terms of some of these exciting panelists that you are going to witness is that they cover all age groups. So we have someone that works with the youth. We have someone that just graduated from a STEM program. So that sort of demographic. And then we also have a special musical artist as well. So we're hitting different age groups, we're hitting different styles, because guess what? We are not a monolith. Let's just be real here. Okay. Talented people on this panel, really exciting night. Thank you everybody for joining us. And as Moana said, definitely we want this to be engaging. So the panelists are going to introduce themselves and let you know a little bit about themselves. Those of you who are listening, make sure that as you're listening, you start to pull things out from the panelists that you can relate to, whether it be music or entertainment or STEM or games or just the culture period, the love of the culture period. So with that being said, definitely go ahead. We want you to engage in the chat because we do watch it. So with that being said, my name is LaToya Simmons. I think on the flyer that was put out, I'm a little bit of a STEM nerd myself. I work mostly in daytime. I work mostly in infectious diseases. So every single outbreak or major national outbreak that you could think of in the past decade, I have definitely had a very strong role in that, including COVID right now. So that's a little bit about me, your host, but I want you guys as the viewers to really get to know our panelists. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go around the screen. You guys can introduce yourselves. Don't get too much into the culture part yet, because we're going to save that. We're going to save that for a moment. But what I want you to do, introduce yourself. So say your names and also tell us one interesting fact about you that nobody would really know or that people would find interesting. So we're going to start with who's on my screen first. I'm just going to randomly pick somebody. Alika, you're first, sir.
I am Alika Spahn Naihe. Hello, everybody. Some random fact that nobody knows about me.
Yeah, something random, something cool.
Mine is like dark and depressing. I was stillborn. That's it's just started off with that.
But you know what? It was powerful. Even though you're stillborn, you are still here, sir, sharing your light. Okay, so we gonna lift that up. So you had a purpose. Clearly, you have probably multiple purposes, and we're gonna learn about some more of this later. So thank you for introducing yourself, sir. See how we turn that around? Yeah, that's what we do here.
Great job. Thank you, LaToya. Thank you.
Nope, no problem, fam. I got you. All right, let's see who's next on my screen is Kanoe Lani.
Aloha mai kakao. Well, I that was a really great something probably a lot of people don't know about you. I don't know how to look with anything after that. I'm Kanoe Lani Davis from the island of Molokai here in Hawaii. Still here in Hawaii. Happy to be with everybody here. The one thing that people don't know about me is I don't know. I feel like everybody knows everything about me.
Well, I'm just meeting you for today. I know your red lips are popping. I learned that, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can say I have 4 daughters. Is that significant? You know,
Yeah, that's
We're a house
absolutely
of-
significant.
yeah, we're a house of women, so 4 daughters.
And
not
motherhood
interesting.
is not easy. Yes, it is. Motherhood is not easy, honey. So you need 4 awards, 1 for each child.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, love. Okay, next on my screen is Leihua.
Aloha, Leihua Stewart here, originally from Pauahi. I'm here now in Maryland. I'm in a drive stone's throw away from Moana. One thing that folks don't know about me is I'm deathly afraid of frogs. I will die. You throw one on me, I will. That's how you
What
destroy.
Sis, what did the frogs do to you, sis? What happened?
Everything, they jump on you like and they jump on you and then you automatically snap and it snatches on you and so it's a little tragic. Well,
Okay, that's a little dramatic. Okay, so we gonna keep all the frogs away from you, all of them. That's really great to meet you, Love. And Kamaka, you're next on my screen.
Okay, aloha kako. My name is Kamakakekau. I was raised on Maui. And I guess, geez, an interesting fact that most people are surprised outside of this group is that I am a fluent Hawaiian language speaker. Like, what? Where they do that at?
Sir, okay, I need a tutorial. Okay,
You
just
will.
saying, I do. I need to get back in touch with my roots for real. So, for those of you who don't know, I am part Hawaiian, not 100% Hawaiian, but definitely part Hawaiian. But I need some education, though, sir. So that's pretty cool. That's very awesome. And actually, we're talking about history and culture tonight, so that fits in perfectly. That fun fact. Next on my screen is Alan.
Hey, my name is Alan Z. One fun fact would probably be I was offered my first record deal when I was 15. And so I was like super young, starting out in the music industry. And it led me down a really dark path that we may touch on later today. But I'm here and I'm really glad that like all the things I've been through in the industry has brought me to where I'm at today.
That's awesome, man. And we're glad that all the things in the industry brought you to us today. So welcome, sir. And we look forward to hearing more about your industry experience, especially with you being so young and so impressionable. Like 15, that's a really impressionable age. So we want to hear more about that. And last but not least, Miss Souza. Holly. Aloha, my name is Visha Pauahi Souza. Most people just call me V. More recently, I have started introducing myself as Pauahi. One fun fact about me is that I'm the only person in my huge family that was not born in Hawaii. So my mom there's 7 of them, and my granny, there's 7 of them, and my dad, there's 5 of them. So with all the nieces, nephews, and everybody, I'm the only one that was not born in Hawaii. Interesting, but here you are repping for the culture, man. Your family is huge. I love that. I love that. I always wanted a large family, so that's pretty cool. So welcome to all of our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, so let's get started with the panel now. We've gotten introduced to all of our guests. I am going to start Alika. And the reason I'm going to start with you, sir, is because I'm going to start with the youth. I heard a little birdie told me that you do some really interesting work with the youth using games to connect them to culture. I'm into that because to me, I call that edutainment, right? You're educating them, but providing entertainment. And sometimes they're so entertained that they don't even know they're learning. I think that's so dope, right? So tell us a bit more about that. Tell us the name of your group and a little bit more about how it started.
Okay, so I work with Theory Craftist Games, and it's me, my business partner and very good friend, Jeffrey Vieira, and our newest addition to the team, Jack Hobbs. He's actually one of our former students. He's the first student that I got the honor of teaching. And so we work at Nanakuli, predominantly out of Nanakuli High School on the west coast of Oahu, with a nonprofit organization called PALS. The director's name is Ki Fukuda. She's amazing. So what we do is we have an after school class where we teach them game design. And yeah, so that's what
Wait, this is not even board games. This is game design. So you teaching them skill?
Everything. Yeah, everything. So board games, card games, digital games. We actually prefer the analog version of things because it's easier and faster to just prototype things and come up with any kind of crazy ideas and try it out immediately. You just write down stuff on a Post-it note and use it as a card. So yeah, we love to do that, and we like to focus on the cultural aspect of it, because PALS is a place-based learning organization. So it's about connecting the students to the place that they're at, and that is how the Hawaiian culture saw education. Everything was based on where you're at and how we see it today. It's based on everything around you. You're a part of everything around you. So you should learn everything around because it makes you. It is who you are. So we have to be connected to our surroundings, our culture, the history behind it. And so we try to incorporate that into everything that we create. And it leaves the students with a sense of identity and belonging that is beyond just themselves. And we have a game that they get to play with. So they get to play with other people. And in those games, we get to teach other people who may not be familiar with the culture about the culture through the game, through what we made.
That is absolutely incredible, sir. Thank you so much for sharing about that because listen, now I want to learn how to play the games because sometimes, let's be real, there's a kid in all of us. Now, whether or not we acknowledge the child in us is a different story, but even that's a good way for me even to learn. Growing up, my grandmother, and maybe we could talk about stuff like this a little bit more, but she was from the mainland, or sorry, the Big Island, and then came to the mainland because she wanted to escape her parents and go out on her own. And so she decided to marry an African American man, and her family disowned her. And so from that, she was very embarrassed about the language. She was very embarrassed about teaching the culture. So this is like a way for me to learn. So the child in me is being fed even from you sharing this. Right.
Oh,
So now I'm going to follow. Yeah. This is like it's coming full circle. So I'd always wanted to be in touch with the culture. She would cook cultural foods. And the reason that I'm sharing that is that maybe there are some people here, whether that are tuning in now or that may watch this later. And maybe their grandparents or their parents didn't teach them the native language of their culture or the history. And so they've been so Americanized that sense of community that you speak of, the environment that we grew up in, it's like Eurocentric or Western in thinking, like we all just think about ourselves in silo,
Right.
our families and us in silo. And this whole environment is contributing to our growth or to our demise or a combination of both, right, to life in general. So the age group of the children that you normally target in your program, is it kindergarten? Is it high school only?
High school. Yeah, it's
High school.
predominantly high school. And we're just, so next week June 9th. So what is that? 2 weeks? We're going to be starting a summer program at the Epic Academy in Waipio. So that's going to be 6th to 8th grade, that age range. So intermediate.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, we're going to be dipping into a little bit younger demographic and see what we can learn from them as well.
Awesome. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's see how much you know about your program. So the coding language, what coding language for our nerds who are watching like myself, who is just trying to learn how to code, like what coding language do y'all use?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm the artist. So Jeffrey is the coder. He's the guy that does all the coding and the mechanics. So
Gotcha.
I draw the pictures. I take all the stuff that everybody says and I make some cool pictures out of it.
Wait a minute. So you're the artist.
Yes.
That's okay. So that I'm learning and becoming more familiar for all those artists out there. Follow Alika. He might be able to give you some tricks of the trade. But thank you so much for sharing about that program. That is awesome. That's awesome. So next, I'm going to hear a little bit from Leihua because a little birdie told me, ma'am, that you just graduated in a STEM field. Is that true?
That is true. I love it.
I'm like, congratulations.
I know. I'm too old school, but I got my
Amazing,
bachelor's
honey.
in organizational management, and
Awesome.
I recently got my master's degree in education, curriculum studies, STEM squared from University of Hawaii at Manoa online.
That is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. So STEM squared is a very new concept for a lot of folks. So STEM squared is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we have S squared, which is social science and sense of place. So as much like what Alika was talking about, it's culture and place-based learning. So it's creating care and concern for your aina. And from that concern, from that care, you are creating solutions, to help your aina, to help the people, to help however you can. So it's all about service. So we have a summer of service camp that we're going to be launching in 2025 in an Afupua, very close to Nanakuli. So very maika'i Alika that you are there in right at the heart of where a lot of the action's going on. And So we're excited about launching that program, and it is all about STEM squared. So yeah.
That is incredible. And I love how the two connect. I didn't even realize the two could connect that way. But I love, again, that you're integrating that community piece. I think earlier today and throughout the month, we've heard a lot about Asian solidarity and then African Americans or Blacks and their solidarity. I'm a mixture of both, right? And so me, I'm like, that's my family, right? Like, it's like both sides of my family. But that's normal for me. But now there's been so much media attention put on a lot of the hate crimes that have happened against people of Asian descent, especially most recently. Of course, we know that's happened over time and throughout history, specifically in the US, but over history. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is if if there's African American and other people of color and Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders and Asians and just people of color in general in the United States, if many of us are facing some of the same challenges, how can we come together and begin to form solutions? And so, like what you just mentioned right now, and what Alika just mentioned in terms of teaching these kids from when they're young to be able, like, to planting seeds of community and understanding your environment and your family and everything that's around you to further define you. That's what we need to get back to. I think that is what has gotten lost over time. So it's great to see both of you engaged in that type of thinking, and not only in that type of thinking, but you're actualizing it through your programs. I think that's absolutely amazing. We need more of it. I'm so glad both of you are here. Something else that I wanted to mention, we have another person on the line, Miss V, who is also embarking on her educational journey as well. Miss V, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then also your educational journey?
So I am Hawaiian, Okinawan, Portuguese. Um,
Oh, she froze a little bit. I love the mixture though. I love where she was going with this. We will come back to V, what her situation is squared away. But continuing along the path of talking about our youth and talking about community and culture and the environment that you're raised in, I really want to talk to Alan for a second. Tell us a little bit about your journey as a young person, how you grew up in the diverse environments that you grew up in, and how that led to your musical journey.
Yeah, I think like because I was moving around so much, it opened a lot of like my awareness of not just like my own community, but just being around like other people. And so like when I was growing up in Maryland, it was mainly like Black and Latino kids. So that's my first exposure into hip hop, right? And then even when I moved to Seattle, which was like a predominantly like white suburb, I brought that kind of like energy from Maryland with me. And I think like when you start stepping outside of your comfort zone and you start like making friends with people that don't look like you gain a new perspective in the world that like you may not like people that stick in their comfort zones may not be used to, right? So a lot of the conversation I see online is like when people make generalizations, you can tell they don't have a friend of that group because you would not say that about somebody you love. And so I think like a lot of these kind of
Yes.
like really like harmful generalizations and like a lot of the online commentary that's like really toxic is coming from people that have never interacted with anyone else that don't look like them. So I think with me being grateful and like blessed enough to like have been in like just different communities and being accepted, like I'm looking at it like, oh, why are we even having this conversation? Because I'm like, oh, I'm fine. But I realize not everyone has lived my life, right? But because I
Right.
have lived that life, I can bring insight and share my story almost as a testimonial. Like, hey, like this, we shouldn't be like at odds with each other. Like, let's build, let's find commonality, let's come together. So I think that's something I can do with my story to hopefully like shed light.
Absolutely. And a little birdie told me, sir, that you have a new musical project. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that project? I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so the musical project I just dropped is with my good friend Jason Chu. It's called Face Value. It's a concept album based completely around Asian American history. And the way we tied it in is the experiences and like the things that we talk about with our identity is still tied in with today. So like we basically correlate what happened in the past with what's happening today. Because a lot of the conversations that people have when it comes to Asian hate crimes is, oh, I can't believe it's happening. Where is this coming from? And it's like if you study history, you know exactly where it comes from. And because it's a pattern, like right, like
Exactly.
And so I think it's important for any group to know their history, because it's a superpower for you. When people try to knock you down, but you have like ancestors that laid the foundation for you, you know what you're standing on, right? So I think for me,
Yes.
being able to tap into that superpower for my community, I think it was something I wanted to share with the world, so that people can be more educated and be more aware.
Ellen, I absolutely love the concept of your album. So much respect for you because, again, I'm going to use that term edutainment, where people are being educated at the same time that they're being entertained. So I don't know, Alika, Leihua, you may have to, in your programs, you may have to go ahead and play a little Alan Z real quick, okay? So support our fam here. But
Definitely.
I
I'll be bumping some of that music.
yeah, yeah. Alan, if you can put in the chat like where we can find your music and what the album's called. I think you said Face Value. Is that
Yeah.
it?
Face value,
I
and
love it.
it's on all platforms, so Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon Music. I can drop like a link for you guys in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
dope. Yeah, definitely. You could put it in the comments so we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
make sure that those who are watching could get a sample of your music and get some education at the same time. Because that's more. I think that's what a lot of times when we see ourselves going through individual situations and when we see a culture. Oh, shout out to Alan Z, you got some love in the chat. And when we see as a culture or as a larger community, as a nation that we're also going through COVID, all the violence that we've seen towards African Americans, people of Asian descent, and so Native Americans, and so on and so forth. It's like everybody kind of starts getting a little bit introspective, right? And what better time to educate people when we're at this collectively at this vulnerable state, right? And not only that, but like music is so soothing and music can be therapy, right? So, Alan, thank you so much for what you're doing in the music industry, knowing that you came up as a young person, 15 years old, entering the game, and you're still at it and you're still doing your thing and walking in your truth. Like you mentioned the term superpower earlier, and I love it. And you absolutely are a superhero. I think everybody on this panel absolutely is. I'm a little biased because I love superheroes. That's why I cosplay. But Alan, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for the culture. There's so much value in that. It's deep, man. So appreciate it. V, we're going to get back to you, man, because we want to hear about what you're doing for the culture. Tell us a little bit more about your background and then also your educational experience.
So I
Your
don't know what
journey.
everybody heard, but I was saying that I'm Hawaiian, Okinawan, Portuguese. I'm very proud, Kanaka, very, very proud. So what I'm doing for the culture is I worked in the psychiatric hospital for 16 years, and then I went to seminary. So religion and psych has always been something that I've been interested in. When I was in seminary, I had the opportunity to work with a marriage and family therapist as an advisor, an African American woman that has been like my rock even now. And so what we did was we compiled a research project for me to enter or submit to a PhD program. And my work is focused around race, gender, sexuality, and social justice. And so what I did was I took cultural historical trauma, a term that has been coined by Native American Maria Braveheart Yellowhorse. And I read everything about what she was saying, and I was like, okay, I understand that there is a need to want to take a theory and project it onto cultures that are oceanic populations. And so I was like, that's not what we're going to do here. First Nations people have similar stories. We don't have similar feelings. Everything is not the same, although it comes out that way when we are educated about it. And so what I did with trauma, my professor said to me, she said, Visha, she said, does your ancestors know what trauma is? And I had
That's
to like,
powerful.
I
That's
was
powerful.
so fascinated when she said that. I was so fascinated when she said that. And I was like, you know what? I went back and looked and there's nothing, right? So what Western society would coin on as what trauma is not something that Native Hawaiians or Kanaka would consider trauma. And so my work is wholly focused on the Kanaka perspective of what trauma like and how it's passed down through the generations. And so my theory that I'm going to develop, I start PhD school in September in Canada. And the theory I'm going to develop is geared towards oceanic populations and how institutions of white supremacy have harmed oceanic populations. And so I'm going to come from it's going to be strictly oceanic perspective and nothing else. I think that is so powerful, sis. I got to give you a round of applause. I don't know about everybody else, but we applaud you, ma'am, also for continuing to take the torch of our ancestors and not only to dive into the history, but to create information based on your education that other people will be able to pull from. That's awesome. The fact that you're talking about trauma too. Trauma is real. And I don't care what culture you're from, you have dealt with some part of it, especially if it has anything to do with the United States as we know it today. Maybe not historic United States, but more present day, right? And so it'll be really interesting to see what your research results in, because I don't know that I've even read a lot of publications that talked about oceanic trauma or those from the oceanic population, their trauma, because it's real. It's a real thing. And I think we've heard a lot about African Americans and slavery, right? We've heard a little about Native Americans and even them being enslaved in the Trail of Tears and the abuse, right? But it's going to be really refreshing to have that another group very represented in academia. So thank you so much for what you're doing and your tenacity to keep going. That's so impressive. We'll all have to stay in touch with you in Canada. Good thing we have platforms like this, because we want to keep up with this. Maybe your information will be able to share with Alika, with Leihua, and also with Alan for his music. You know what I'm saying? Like connecting those dots and keeping the community moving forward as a collective. All right, we got 2 more people on our panel to tell a little bit more about themselves. Kamaka, let's learn some stuff about you. We learned a fun fact that you speak Native Hawaiian, which I think is so. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and your connection to the culture.
First of all, LaToya, I just love your energy. You are awesome.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it is a fun fact because there was definitely a time of like you were Hawaiian language and federations. They weren't allowed to speak Olelo Hawaii. So to have been adopted from all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas, and then brought
Wait, you from
to-
Arkansas, sir?
from
From
Ma-
Arkansas?
yes, ma'am. Not really, but yeah. But so to be brought to Hawaii and then just embraced and loved by my ohana has just taught me so much to be respectful and to keep these cultures alive. And through that, I then found passion of music and wanted to build the bridge there and then just taking it around the world. And I love what Alan shared as far as your outer image. Honoring the culture, of course, is great, but people tend to put you in that box and they don't know what to, because they don't know what to expect of you, right? So they're just going to go according to your race or whatever. So that's what I've been doing in my music is actually really connecting myself as well with the African American side, because all I've learned, I've become a product of my environment, right? So all I know is Hawaiian language. And through this language, it's built a i'ini, if you will, a desire for me to connect myself more to the African American and try and collaborate and honor and uplift the culture, but also to just show that you don't have to be one way to do one thing. Just,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but I don't know if you guys can see this, but just speak about connection with maybe like that bone. You see it?
Oh, yep. Yep. We can see it.
Yeah,
We can
it's
see
a
it.
drawing of Alika right here. Yeah. This is what
Oh.
he did. Yeah, in honor of I think it was like African
Oh,
American,
it's beautiful.
right? Making me feel like Martin Luther King in that picture.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Where can we find that somewhere? Is it online?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram and Kamaka's Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me get some. Let me get some.
You are a king. You are a king, Kamaka.
It's true. I agree. I agree. And Kamaka, tell us a little bit more specifically about your music. Are you just doing native, more traditional music? Are you merging traditional with modern or only modern? We know Alan is definitely into the hip hop scene. What about you?
Well, I do have a passion for all different styles, from neo soul to a little reggae. And even in Hawaii, we have that island reggae vibe.
Yeah.
But we know where that comes from, okay? Let's just take it
Let's
back
be real. Let's
to
be
the
real.
motherland.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do have some compositions that I'm working on that really speaks to our time, what we're going to, and balance, understanding, to understand, and if it's for myself as well, the importance of balance in your life. For us, we talk about ku and hina, the masculine and feminine, and a lot of my work being a traditional Hawaiian falsetto singer, you have that ku and hina going on in there as well. So I have to link with po mahina and have some ka about collaborating there. But I really just love sharing the story, which originates from my mother. And God bless her soul. She did so much for her community and for her ohana. So here I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for continuing to carry the torch too from your mother and from your family, and also doing so through music, through the beauty and the power of music. Even if people don't understand the language that a certain song is sung in, everybody understands music. Like everybody, even little ones, they respond to it, right? And so what better way to um definitely keep the tradition going, to shine your light, live out your purpose, and then keep that music going. That's awesome. So we've got one more person here on the panel. We're going to introduce the queen here with her red lips. I'm loving the red lips, like for real, for real. Yes, Boo, yes. Queen, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my kako. Kanoe Lani. Not a queen, not a queen. We like to think of ourselves as goddesses, but that's a whole.
All right, goddess. We can do that. Speak that. Speak that. Tell us a little bit about your connection to the culture and what you're doing that's really interesting and cool.
It's so funny. It's like that feeling of having to pull whatever it is that you do out as if it is something cool or even interesting is interesting to me.
Oh, well, we all think that it's interesting. It's new to us. So just share away. We're interested in hearing about what you bring to the table. We're excited to hear about it, actually.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I am a granddaughter and a daughter. I was raised by my grandparents.
Awesome. Awesome.
Young child. Yeah. So a lot of the work that I do today is based off of that foundation, one generation above my parent. And what was once a burden and felt like I was lost is now something I prize and treasure. And I will always prize and treasure for the rest of my life. Having to have skipped a generation has really helped me see a lot more things today in this modern generation and modern time, I should say. And so, raised by my grandparents, I am Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino by descent. I was raised in a Hawaiian home and Chinese home. So my background is we come from practitioners on the Chinese and both on the Chinese and Hawaiian side, healers and martial artists. And
I love it. I love it.
So I incorporate a lot of my foundation into everything I do. So what do I do? I have a business. It's called Pomahina Designs. I also have a halal. Right now, I say I have a halal. I've been on sabbatical for like a couple of years now, trying to get Pomahina Designs on it. My first students were like, when are we meeting? So honestly, it started with them as a foundation and my children, my 4 daughters, to retain the memories and the names of old. When we talk about element, because as we know, the rain, there are many rain. The cloud, there are many clouds. And so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we lost a lot of the names throughout time.
Yeah.
Pomahina was meant to create design. I'm a graphic designer by
artist.
by schooling. And so, but I also knew how to do natural dyes and I knew how to do oheka pala through hula. And so we taught that to my students, and Pomahina Designs has grown because it was meant for halal, but it ended up being something that we recognize was meant for the world. And
that's powerful. That is so powerful.
Yeah. And no, the interesting part is some of the names reference a lot of family genealogy that they forgot, or maybe grandson went, oh, my papa talked about it. I remember that name. I think that's a family name. And then they'll come and I say, okay, this is here's the element. This element came out of this valley. Here's the families to this valley. Because I will do research and I will check and make sure that I'm doing it as honoring as best as I can.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, here, take this. This is all I have, but these are going to be your little nuggets that will help you get to something bigger. Aside from that, I do work with the University of Hawaii in the Department of Psychiatry, where culture is health. We're moving into been with this program for about 9 years. It's called Puni Keola regarding substance abuse for teens to early
Oh,
adulthood.
wow.
Yeah, and it's just basically going into right self-identity, right? Alika, trying to go back. We're not focusing on substance abuse, right? Hawaii, we're focusing on who are you in this world.
Yes. Yes.
So we focus
Getting
on
to the roots. Yeah.
yeah, correct. So we focus on their identity because the idea is not to make perfect people in the world. The idea is to make have a space where they have the skill sets to use whenever they're put into a really hard situation. The idea is not to avoid situations. The idea is to get out of those situations quicker than most.
Yes.
Hungry, whatever it is. And so I get the privilege of working with these young kids who I learn things from every day. And if there's one thing I share with them is don't forget what you just said, because you will fall on it when you get older.
It's true.
Lost it. So I have that privilege of working with these kids. I'm blessed to be in their space. By all means, they keep me grounded. They remind me, and they invoke a lot of good memories of who I was, the innocent of that time, as well as the challenges. We never forget. What else do I do? Oh, I have the Mana Bombs podcast. We do so with that, and a nonprofit called Ho'aka Mana, which is to strike with intention. And
I love it.
and that one is mainly for single Indigenous parents who just need help with the emotional parts, recovering from this traumatic experience, help and assistance for their children, how to get ahead or just how to gather themselves back.
Oh, wow. That's such a needed resource.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you were sitting here like, I don't really know what to tell everybody. And here you are, a goddess in her own right, literally, and you're doing so much for the culture and so much for the community. You're extremely multifaceted. I think it's beautiful. I think it's powerful. What you're doing is connecting all the dots of all the people on the panel today, which is not just addressing the situation on its surface, but getting to the root of the problem, reaching out to our youth and helping them discover who they are. Because when you know who you are, you can see yourself a bit more clearly, you literally see the world a bit more clearly. Right. And then when you have confidence in the education that you're getting, knowing that you're going towards your purpose and you're living out the legacy of your ancestors and your family, there's power and there's validation in that. And I think a lot of young people, especially young people of color, are looking for that, right? Because the history has been either taken from them or conveniently not shared with them, right? Conveniently omitted from textbooks or rewritten in textbooks to where we are not perceived in a positive light, right? And so everything that you're doing, helping people find out about their genealogy, like you are the bridge to the ancestors in terms of what you were saying. You tell people, okay, where are you from? What's your last name? That mineral grew over here or over there. It could be harvested over north from here. The fact that you're able to do that and to have that healer's mentality and that warrior spirit too, I think that's so powerful. And it really does embody everybody literally on this panel. So the next question that I have for you guys, we only have a few more minutes left. So thank you all for telling about yourselves. Those of you in the chat, thank you for the love that you've been showing. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them right in there. #question. But the question I have for the panelists, and anyone can answer this, is I know a lot of us have talked about our roots, where we grew up as children, how we got to where we are today as adults, right? But everything starts in childhood. A lot of that foundation, right? The ideas that we have today, the work that we're doing today. So with that being said, based on the work that you are currently doing and the information that you're able to pull, whether it's from patients, whether it's from your audience that you're entertaining, or children or young people that you're influencing and educating, how much hope do you have for our youth, for this next generation, that they'll be able to be different than the last generation and carry on the torch, carry on the culture, the language, the music, the history? How much hope do you have for that? I know with social media, there's so many distractions and things that we're competing. We're competing for the young people's attention and even for adults' attention, right? So what are your thoughts on that? I know it's a very broad question, but anybody can start to answer.
Oh yeah, I have tremendous hope for the youth in the future.
Awesome.
They're
Awesome.
just because I get to work with them a lot. Like I see so much energy and so much fire, and there's a lot of kids that I talk to. Like so, next to Nanakuli is, and I got to travel to Flint, Michigan with some students from Moana High School, and we went there to
Nice.
talk about to go to a place-based education conference. And man, like I started calling those like there's two teenage boys that I was talking to most of the time. I started calling them uncle because it was teaching me stuff.
Oh, wow.
Right? They know so much stuff, and it's just because
Uh-huh.
they live the culture every single day, and it's coming back. So I have a lot of hope for them.
Awesome.
Sure.
I love hearing that positivity. Leihua, I'm going to ask you next, based on the programs that you've been involved in academically, and then what also you've been doing for your career. Do you see diversity changing for our students to where it's embraced more? And do you see hope?
Oh, absolutely. There's hope. We are such a Native Hawaiians or Kanaka Maoli. We're a very vibrant people. We're so amazing. And much like what Kanoe Lani and Alika was saying, and as well as they don't realize who they are until they find out and learn more. So it's all about Ike. It's all about knowledge. It's all about changing that and making them more confident about who they are so that they can compete in STEM careers and STEM spaces and be more confident about it. So it's all about education. It's all about folks like all of us on the panel to help move that along and support that because our youth is our future. And
Absolutely.
I have lots of hope for our future because the Olelo Hawaii movement is up and running. It's so beautiful to go back home to Hawaii and hear Olelo Hawaii everywhere you go, every space.
Nice.
So I'm very confident and very hopeful for the future. So the whole
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Alan, I'm going to come to you next. I'd like you to answer that question, but from a musical perspective. I know you just released Face Value, but from some of your other albums that you've released and some of the other musical experiences that you have, do you see hope for our future for our youth, those who we're trying to impart knowledge on, those who we're trying to influence, from the hip hop side of things, but also honoring AANPI culture and history as well?
I think there is because I think there's finally like a place for knowledge even within entertainment. Like you mentioned edutainment. I don't think it was cool to be smart 10 years ago when I was growing up.
Nope, it
I
sure
remember
wasn't.
I remember on BET, like little brother couldn't get their music video played because the owner at the time said it was too smart. Like that was what we were dealing with
That's
before
ridiculous.
before like
Yeah.
we started discovering, hey, we wanted to listen to this. And I think even with Face Value, like this album that me and Jason dropped, like we felt like the timing was necessary right now because 10 years ago or 5 years ago, people just didn't care. Like just people wanted to stay ignorant because it was fun, right? Like people always said, you can't think and twerk at the same time. But there's a time and place for everything, right? So I think like right now people are hungry for discovering themselves way more than before. And I don't know, I can't predict the
Yeah.
future, but I do think that we can shape the future and we can make the world that we want to see.
I love it. I love it. Now, for the last three panelists, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and have a different question for you. Before I ask that, I'm going to give a shout out to Dave in the chat. He said it's interesting that there is such commonality in former colonized people all around the world. And I agree with you. There really is there are a lot of differences that we have, right? But there is so much that we have in common, especially here in the United States. Personally, I believe if we could address things from an intersectionality standpoint, that collectively we can move together forward and have a lot more success, especially in gearing up our young people for the next generation, for them to take the torch. Dave also mentioned we have to instill confidence, pride, and security. Absolutely. And you instill that confidence, pride, and security when you know yourself, right? When you know who you are, where your roots are, your identity is solid, right? In terms of your family and your history, when that is solid, when you can go back to your roots and see that there's an extra air that you have about yourself. And you can walk with a little flag, like you said, what to me? Or whatever, because I know where my ancestors came. Thank you. Like, so with that being said, I'm going to pose the next question to our last three panelists. I'm going to start with you first. In terms of educating this next generation and educating ourselves, because there's even people our age and older who have disconnected from the culture. I mentioned earlier, my grandmother did. She was so embarrassed of the culture, and even marrying an African-American man, her family disowned her because her father said, if you marry a Black man, you will not be part of this family anymore, right? And it's not just Hawaiian culture or Pacific Islander culture that's like that. There are other cultures that are like that as well, right? So my question to you is, in terms of the future and in terms of what knowledge can we teach, like in 2 seconds, what's something, one or two things that you would want our viewers to know about the AANPI community? Something powerful.
Well, I think Dave had shared something in the comments, right? Instill confidence, instill security, do no harm, know who you are, stick to your roots. And don't forget, there's never a bad time or it's never too late to really dive into who you are, even if it's your job.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, I can stand strong because I got 400,000 behind.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Kamaka, what are your thoughts on that? In terms of for the people watching, those watching, what are some values or some things that you'd like the viewers to take away about the AANPI?
Awesome. Well, we always look to the past to guide the future. And so one of the things that, or the people that comes to reference is a woman by the name of Pilahi Paki. And I often share this because she made known the meaning and definition of aloha, one of the other meanings of aloha, which became an acronym. And the A standing for akahai, which is to be kind. The L is lokahi, unity. The O is olu olu, which is to be pleasant. The H is ha'aha'a, which is humility. And the final A is ahonui, which is patience. And so within the journey that you're going on, is trying to find yourself. You want to locate these traits so that you can kuha'aheo, can stand proud of who you are and where you come from. And then holomoa, and move forward in life. Mahalo.
I love that. I actually now want a piece of art that displays aloha and all the meanings of each letter. And now I'm like getting all creative and stuff. Okay, Alika, I might have to come to you for a piece of art, sir. All right, V, your thoughts on what we could take away from the culture, or what we can some lessons learned, whether it be from the elders, from your educational studies. What are some things that you want our viewers to take away from this talk tonight?
I would just mimic what Kanoe Lani and Kamakakekau said, but I kind of like in West thinking, they say, well, don't worry about the past. This is not the future. I think what Kamaka said, for Pacific Islanders, we have to go back to the past so that we can reshape the future. Because if we don't know the past, we're living in colonialistic measures. So all we're doing is perpetuating colonialism. So we have to go back to the past so that we can reshape what our future looks like. And so what does that look like? It looks like pride. It looks like security. It looks like aloha. And so just remembering or relearning what that past did and taking back the past and teaching ourselves and those around us, whether it be our ohana or our allies or our friends, and just making sure that when we educate others that we know what we're talking about so that it doesn't come off wrong and that we're not miseducating other people as well.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a great takeaway message, making sure we're true to history, that we can be true to ourselves, true to our ancestors, and true to whatever spirits are in the future, right? You all are incredible human beings. You're making an incredible mark in history, each one of you. Thank you all so much for being on our panel.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if the wounds where we will. If this the land of the free was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it feudal lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians when they resisted. The West retaliated in violence and liberation. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand. Yeah. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, multiple bombings of Kaho'ola Bay. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation, colonizers call for annexation. No work of all the locals, school never let you. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if we won't tell it, we will. We will. So if we put Hawaii in a perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark-skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom, clap back of the system. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, multiple bombings of Kaho'ola Bay, as a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation, colonizers call for annexation. No work of all the locals, school never let you. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if they won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we had to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf if they won't tell it, we will.